If human civilization vanished tomorrow, erased by pandemic, war, or climate collapse, what would remain of us in 10,000, 100,000, or a million years? We often imagine our skyscrapers standing tall like the pyramids of Giza, monuments to our ingenuity that will last forever. But the truth is far more humbling. Unlike the stone monuments of Egypt or the Inca, which were carved from the very bones of the earth, our world is constructed from composite materials held together by chemistry that begins to fail the moment humans stop maintaining it. This concept, known as future archaeology, forces us to look at our world through the eyes of a hypothetical explorer from the deep future, asking a terrifying question. Will we be remembered as a great civilization, or will we appear as a sudden, inexplicable layer of toxic sludge in the geological record? The first casualties of time would be our cities. Without constant waterproofing and repair, the rebar inside reinforced concrete, the skeleton of the modern world, would rust and expand, cracking the concrete from within. Within a few centuries, the towering skylines of New York, Shanghai, and Dubai would be reduced to skeletal husks, eventually collapsing into piles of rubble that future geologists might mistake for strange, geometric hills. The glass and steel facades would fall to the streets, ground into dust by wind and rain. Our digital existence, the sum of all our knowledge, art, and history stored on servers and hard drives, would vanish almost instantly. Magnetic bits rot, optical discs degrade, and without electricity, the internet is just a silent web of copper and fiber optics buried in the mud. We are living in a digital dark age, where the most recorded generation in history is paradoxically the most fragile, destined to leave behind less physical evidence of its daily life than the Sumerians did with their clay tablets. The only things that might survive on the surface are not our greatest achievements, but our most colossal scars. The open-pit mines that have reshaped entire mountains, the flattened tops of Appalachia, and the vast, artificial lakes created by megadams like the Three Gorges, which will eventually silt up and become strange, flat plains of concrete-encased mud. Future archaeologists will not find books or hard drives. They will find a world where the very geography has been surgically altered by a species that seemingly hated the natural shape of the earth. While our beautiful buildings rot, the most enduring legacy of the 21st century will likely be the ugly, indestructible layer of trash we are leaving behind. A geological stratum so distinct that scientists have already named it the Technosphere. Future geologists digging through the sediment of the Anthropocene will hit a sudden, sharp band of material unlike anything in the 4.5 billion years prior, a layer of technofossils. Unlike wood or bone, plastic does not biodegrade. It photodegrades, breaking down into smaller and smaller microscopic particles, but never truly disappearing. On beaches in Hawaii, geologists have already discovered a new type of rock called plastaglomerate, a hybrid material formed when melted plastic trash fuses with sand, basalt, and coral. In millions of years, these plastaglomerates will be the defining fossil of our era, a synthetic conglomerate that proves an industrial civilization once existed. Alongside plastic, they will find exotic isotopes, plutonium-239 and cesium-137, radioactive markers from our nuclear weapons testing and power plant disasters that will remain detectable for hundreds of thousands of years. This nuclear horizon will allow future scientists to date our civilization with terrifying precision, marking the exact moment we unlocked the power of the atom and used it to poison our own atmosphere. Furthermore, the mass extinction we are currently engineering will leave a stark biological void in the fossil record, a sudden disappearance of megafauna, lions, elephants, whales, replaced by an explosion of domestic bones. Billions of chicken, cow, and pig skeletons, the only animals we allowed to proliferate to feed our swelling population. The chicken bone layer may well be the most ubiquitous sign of human civilization, a global stratum of discarded wings and thighs that tells the story of a species that industrialized life itself. We will not be remembered for our art or our philosophy, but for our consumption, a layer of plastic, radiation, and chicken bones that wraps the planet in a suffocating blanket of our own making, a testament to a time when convenience was valued above continuity. There are, however, A few intentional messages we are trying to send to the deep future, attempts to communicate with whoever or whatever comes next, warning them of the dangers we are leaving behind. The most ambitious of these is the Onkalo Spent Nuclear Fuel Repository in Finland, a massive underground crypt designed to hold high-level radioactive waste for 100,000 years. Carved deep into the bedrock, Onkalo is the anti-monument, a place not meant to be found, but meant to be forgotten. The architects of this tomb face a unique linguistic problem. How do you design a keep-out sign that will be understood in 10 millennia when English, Chinese, and every other modern language will be as dead as linear array? This field, known as nuclear semiotics, has generated bizarre and terrifying proposals. Fields of giant concrete spikes to inspire dread, landscapes artificially dyed black to signify death, or even a genetically engineered ray cat folklore, where cats are modified to change color in the presence of radiation, creating a living biological Geiger counter that future primitive humans might worship and obey. In the United States, the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, WIP, in New Mexico faces the same challenge. Panels of experts have debated using menacing earthworks, hostile architecture, or even pictograms of screaming faces to convey the concept of invisible death. Yet, history shows that humans are terrible at obeying warnings. The curses on Egyptian tombs didn't stop the British Museum, and a keep-out sign often looks like a treasure map to a curious explorer. The irony is that by trying to warn the future, we may be guaranteeing that they dig us up. The shiny copper canisters of Onkalo or the mysterious buried vaults of WIP might be interpreted as religious shrines or royal treasuries by a future culture that has lost the concept of radiation. We are burying our deadliest poison in our most durable boxes, creating a trap for the future that looks suspiciously like a gift. This struggle to communicate across deep time reveals the arrogance of our present moment. We assume that the future will care about what we have to say, or that they will even recognize us as fellow intelligent beings, rather than just the reckless gods who poisoned the earth and then hid the evidence in the basement. If we look for the one human creation that might truly rival the dinosaurs in longevity, we must look to the moon. On the desolate, airless plains of the Sea of Tranquility, the descent stage of the Apollo 11 lunar module Eagle still sits exactly where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin left it in 1969. Surrounding it are their footprints, perfectly preserved in the lunar regolith, undisturbed by wind or rain. Without an atmosphere to erode them, these artifacts, the gold foil-wrapped landers, the abandoned rovers, the flags, now bleached white by solar radiation, and the bags of human waste tossed out the airlock, will remain pristine for millions, perhaps billions, of years. They are the ultimate time capsule, a frozen tableau of the moment humanity first left its cradle. Long after the Earth has been reshaped by plate tectonics, erasing every trace of New York and London, the Apollo sites will remain as silent monuments to our species' greatest achievement. A future alien archaeologist arriving in our solar system might find a ruined, unrecognizable Earth, but on its moon, they would find the perfectly preserved evidence of a bipedal, tool-using species that once possessed the courage to cross the void. Similarly, our robotic envoys, the Voyager probes, drifting now in interstellar space, carry the golden record, a phonograph plated in gold and protected by an aluminum cover, containing the sounds of Earth, greetings in 55 languages, and maps to our location using pulsars. They are the true immortals of our civilization, drifting in the dark long after the civilization that built them has turned to dust. In the end, our legacy may not be what we leave on Earth, but what we threw away from it, the metal shells and golden discs floating in the vacuum, carrying the whisper of a ghost species that once looked up at the stars and said, "We were here." It is a lonely, beautiful thought that the only part of us that is truly eternal is the part that managed to escape the gravity of our own destruction. If the digital dark age threatens to erase our history, the most ambitious attempt to fight back is currently unfolding deep within the salt mines of Hallstatt, Austria. Here, the Memory of Mankind project is etching the sum of human knowledge onto the most durable medium we have ever known, ceramic tablets. Unlike digital bits that rot or paper that burns, These tablets are fired at temperatures so high they essentially become artificial stone, impervious to radiation, water, and time. Each tablet, carrying microscopic text and images legible with a simple magnifying glass, is designed to survive for 1 million years. The choice of location is no accident. Salt mines are geologically stable, dry, and plastic flow properties of salt eventually seal the caverns, encasing the archive in a natural geological vault that will only be accessible to a future civilization capable of advanced mining. This project represents a shift from active to passive preservation, creating an archive that requires no electricity, no maintenance, and no special technology to decode. Similar initiatives like Microsoft's Project Silica are taking this concept to the molecular level, using femtosecond lasers to etch data into quartz glass. This Superman memory crystal can withstand being boiled, baked, or bathed in acid, storing terabytes of data in a sliver of glass that will remain readable for 10,000 years. Yet, the existence of these archives raises a profound philosophical question. Who is the editor of the future? The memory of mankind allows anyone to upload their own story for a fee, creating a bottom-up history of the 21st century that includes not just kings and presidents, but ordinary people, love letters, and mundane blog posts. Future historians might find a version of our world that is chaotic, personal, and deeply human, rather than the sanitized official histories of state archives. However, the sheer volume of data creates its own problem. If we leave behind billions of ceramic tablets, we are not leaving a history. We are leaving a labyrinth. A future archaeologist finding this hoard would face the Borges dilemma, a library so vast it is impossible to read, where the truth is buried under mountains of trivia. We are building a time capsule that is simultaneously indestructible and indecipherable, a paradox where we save everything but communicate nothing. The ceramic tablets of Hallstatt and the quartz crystals of Project Silica are the modern equivalent of the Rosetta Stone, but without a Greek translation key, they may remain beautiful, silent artifacts, testaments to a civilization that was obsessed with recording itself but forgot how to speak to the future. Beyond the preservation of our history, there is a more desperate effort to preserve life itself. Buried 400 feet inside a sandstone mountain on the island of Spitsbergen, halfway between Norway and the North Pole, lies the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Often called the Doomsday Vault, it houses over 1 million seed samples from every country on Earth, a backup hard drive for the planet's agriculture. The vault is designed to withstand nuclear war, asteroid strikes, and rising sea levels, kept frozen by the natural permafrost and backup generators. It is the ultimate insurance policy, a promise that no matter how badly we damage the biosphere, we can reboot the system. But even this fortress is showing cracks. In 2017, record-breaking temperatures caused the permafrost to melt, flooding the entrance tunnel and proving that not even the Doomsday Vault is immune to the climate catastrophe it was built to survive. This irony highlights the fragility of biological projects. We can freeze seeds, but can we freeze an ecosystem? A seed is useless without the specific pollinators, soil bacteria, and climate conditions it evolved to thrive in. The Frozen Zoo in San Diego takes this concept further, storing the frozen cells of over 1,000 endangered species in liquid nitrogen cryobanks. The goal is de-extinction, the hope that future science will be able to clone rhinos, condors, and perhaps even humans from these frozen samples. But this assumes a future civilization that is not only technologically advanced, but also benevolent enough to care about resurrecting the biodiversity we destroyed. It is a gamble on the moral character of our descendants. Furthermore, there are proposals to move these biological backups off-world, to lava tubes on the Moon or deep craters on Mars, creating a Noah's Ark that is truly safe from earthly disasters. The Arch Mission Foundation has already sent a lunar library to the Moon, a nickel disk containing 30 million pages of human knowledge and DNA samples, which crash-landed with the Israeli Beresheet probe in 2019. Thousands of microscopic tardigrades, water bears, and human DNA strands are now scattered on the lunar surface, technically making the Moon the first off-world biological preserve. These projects reveal a deep anxiety about our own permanence. We are acting like a species that knows it is terminal, frantically backing up our files to an external drive before the system crashes. We are preparing for our own absence, building monuments not to our glory, but to our guilt, hoping that some future intelligence can forgive us and use the seeds we saved to replant the garden we burned. If biology fails and the seeds rot, our final legacy might be written in the very code of life itself. DNA is the most dense and durable storage medium in the known universe. A single gram of DNA can theoretically store 215 petabytes of data, and under the right conditions, it can last for hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists have already successfully encoded Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, Shakespeare's sonnets, and a digital virus into synthetic DNA strands. This DNA data storage represents the ultimate convergence of biology and technology, allowing us to store the entire internet in a shoebox. But the most radical application of this technology is not storing data on DNA, but storing data in living organisms. Researchers are experimenting with encoding messages into the genomes of bacteria and plants, creating living archives that reproduce and propagate themselves. Imagine a forest where every tree contains the entire works of Wikipedia in its leaves, or a strain of bacteria that carries the blueprints for our technology, surviving in the soil long after our cities have turned to dust. This concept, known as genomic steganography, turns the biosphere into a library. However, this creates a terrifying potential for mutation. Nature is not a static hard drive, it evolves. A message encoded in bacteria today might be garbled by mutation in 1,000 years, or worse, the data might accidentally trigger a biological change, turning a harmless microbe into a plague. We could be creating a cursed biological legacy, where our attempts to preserve knowledge inadvertently create monsters. Furthermore, reading this data requires a high-level technological civilization capable of DNA sequencing. If the future is primitive, a Mad Max world of scavengers, the library in the trees will be invisible to them. They will burn the books for warmth, unaware that the smoke contains the secrets of the universe. This highlights the technological gap problem in future archaeology. The more advanced our storage methods become, DNA, quartz glass, atomic etching, the harder they are to access for anyone who isn't equally advanced. We are locking our legacy behind a door that requires a specific, high-tech key, potentially ensuring that the survivors of a collapse will inherit nothing but silence. The durability of DNA is matched only by its inaccessibility, making it the perfect medium for a message that is meant to last forever but never be read. Ultimately, the question of what we leave behind is a mirror for how we see ourselves today. We are the first species in history to actively curate our own fossils, obsessed with shaping the narrative of our existence for an audience that may not even exist. Whether it is the radioactive warning signs of Onkalo, the frozen seeds of Svalbard, the gold-plated records of Voyager, or the plastic layer of the Anthropocene, we are screaming into the void, desperate to be remembered. But the universe is vast and deeply indifferent. The only thing that truly persists is the causality of our actions, the atmospheric changes we triggered, the evolutionary paths we altered, and the silence of the species we extinguished. In 1,000,000 years, the most profound evidence of humanity might not be an artifact, but an absence, a geological gap, where the natural order was interrupted by a brief, explosive flash of intelligence that burned too bright and too fast. Yet, there is a strange hope in our efforts. We are building these time capsules not just for them, but for us, to convince ourselves that our lives have meaning beyond the present moment. We are like the ancient handprints in the caves of Indonesia, a defiant assertion of existence against the crushing weight of time. Future archaeology will be a study of ghosts, but if we are careful, if we are wise, those ghosts might still have something to teach. The true legacy of our civilization will not be the objects we leave, but the potential for life to continue after us. If the seeds in Svalbard ever sprout, or if a future intelligence decodes the golden record, we will have achieved the only immortality that matters, the survival of the spark. We are the architects of the deep future, writing a letter we will never get to send, hoping that somewhere, someone is waiting to read it.